We have 13 seconds, so I'm giving everybody 13 seconds to get here. It's 2 o'clock. Who's here? Is anybody here? Besides Avis, I see you. Anybody else? We're going to be starting momentarily. Hi, Laura. I should have music going on or something in the background. I don't know why. It's 5 are watching. They're just anonymous, sitting in the dark in their room, watching it. I'm not in the dark, but I am alone in my room, watching it, talking to a machine. Oh, there's other people. Hi, Jody. Joyce. 7. Mine says 6, but maybe it doesn't count me. I don't know. Anyway, maybe it's like a cocktail party and people just show up when they park the car, they straighten their clothes, they wander in the door. So I'm just going to start here because we have a few items to take care of. So, welcome officially, everyone, to the Oswald the Thief book launch on YouTube. You too can be a YouTuber. That means we bury you and see what comes up. So there's it's the official book. It's like the only book that I've got that's official, the print, because the hardcovers still aren't here, but they will be. But it's hard printing a book when you don't have the facilities to do it. So that's all right. Amazon is they're working on it. And as soon as I get those hardcovers, I will sign them and send them off to you. You can't order from me anymore, though. You have to go to Amazon and get your print books there. You can get the ebooks from Amazon, Smashwords, which is also Overdrive. So that means you can get it from your library. Nook, Kobo, what's the other? Oh, Google Play Books, stuff like that there. So Smashwords is that other place. All right, so thank you for coming, all of you guys who came and those who will be wandering in. I see you. No, I don't actually see you, so that's a good thing, right? We're gonna do some giveaways. We're gonna talk about history, and I want you to go ahead and just start asking questions when they occur to you, because I will go back and refer to that. It's on the little margin side for me that I can see. You might be able to see it like that too. I don't know, but do ask those questions because I'll take time to answer them. I will. But I think I'm going to start with a giveaway because why not? It's my show. I can do whatever I want. So the first thing I'm going to give away is this fantastic tea towel. My best friend gave me one just like this, and I thought it was so cool because it's got all this history stuff on it. So not only will it be great for your tea, but you can learn something. I like learning things with my food, don't you? So go ahead. This is how we do it. I won't be telling you who won because I will check after the event. So what you do is you go to jerrywesterson@gmail.com and you put in the subject line tea towel. And that means I know that you want to win that. And I will, and you only can win one thing. Only one thing. There's a random number generator that I use, and it will pick the number of the people that posted that on my email. It will pick one, and then I will contact you and tell you you've won. And if you don't hear from me, You didn't, but you still won this wonderful experience of being here with all your friends. So that's an awesome thing. So do that now. The tea towel. Tea time, anyone? And well, here's a question to those who do lots of teas. Is the tea towel to wipe up your tea mess? Is it to clean your teapot? I actually don't know. That's not something I ever researched. How about that? But yeah, go go forth and email, and then we will talk about other things. And the first thing I want to talk about is the history of this book, how this book came to be, that kind of history, because we'll talk about other kinds of history as well. But Oswald began in the year 2000, and it was called at that time Communion of Saints as a historical standalone. And as I was fond of doing in those days, like this book, Though Heaven Fall, I wrote these historical standalones that had these religious themes, but had these deeper themes of, philosophy and our place in the world and all of that. And that's what this book was. It was very serious, and he died at the end. But he doesn't die in this one. Okay, so you can feel confidence in that. He died at the end of it, and he was still a con man, and there were still some of the same characters in the book. But his main thing was um, he made fake saint bones to sell. So he'd get chicken bones, burn them a little bit, and do stuff to them, and cover them with dust, and they would be he would sell them as saints bones, and people started to think that they were becoming healed by these. So it became this thing where they thought he was a saint or something, and and at the end he was burned at the stake for heresy, and but he did it for someone else because he changed throughout the book, and he was very selfish, and by the end of the book he didn't want someone else to die in his place. So twas a far, far better thing he did than he has ever done before. So that's what happened then. But this is before I had an agent or in between agents. Yeah, 2000 was in between agents, and I didn't even do anything with it. When I had an agent, I didn't even say, "Hey, how about this book?" I just said, I've had trouble before trying to sell these historical standalones that didn't have any famous people in them." And I was told over and over again, "Well, if it followed the court of whatever king or queen was, in charge then that might be more interesting." I say, "Well, that's not what I wanted to write about. I wanted to write about these ordinary people under extraordinary circumstances and how they got through it, and it had to be those particular time periods because that's how it worked." But so I didn't do anything with it. But in 2012, I took it from the vault and rewrote it entirely. I liked a lot of the characters. I kept a lot of the characters, changed a lot of them slightly, changed some of them a lot, and made it into this heist book, which was going to be a new series. Because I thought, okay, well, at least in a series, it could possibly have, like Crispin, it could have some famous people coming through it. But they wouldn't be the main thrust. But the main thing would be the heist, the caper. Now, it's very hard to write a caper. I'll have you know, it's hard to write it as a book because, as you can imagine, they're very visual. They're very visual. No, they aren't. They're visual. Yeah, that's the one. They're very visual, and that's why heist movies work really well because you always have the montage of getting all the characters together and and then the different things, the technology they have to go through to try to get the thing and they always fail first and then they do it next. That seems to be a theme. But it was very hard to write this and without modern technology because now there's no electronics, there's no alarm systems, there's no this and that. I have to make that more interesting rather than just breaking in a window and getting in there. So it was hard. Now Donald Westlake, if some of you are familiar with his mysteries, he's no longer with us, so there won't be any more books. But Donald Westlake, his main thing, uh, it was the heist books. So he wrote those. One was made into a movie with Robert Redford, I believe. It was okay. Wasn't anything to write home about. But he's kind of the only example I could think of somebody who regularly wrote about heists and things. Now there are some thrillers out there that have that element in there as well. But anyway, that's all I knew about that. And I just knew it was going to be hard to do it. But I had a second one all thought out, kind of ready to go. Um, and then I gave it to my agent, my current agent, and he tried to sell it. And there were a couple of nibbles here and there, but then, you know, nada. I put it to bed in 2015. That's when that was that. Fast forward to 2020. We're not doing anything else. It was a pandemic. So I decided to self publish it. So I rewrote it again, edited it again many times. And so now in 2021, it's published, self published. So now it's a standalone. It's not a series unless it sells fantastically. It's going to stay a standalone. So just be aware of that. So let me see if there's anything to anybody's talking about over here. Let's see. Hello, everybody. All the people that showed up. Your ebook downloaded this morning. Of course it did. Yay! Okay. Pre-ordered stuff. I do love tea towels. I never wash dishes, so I never use mine to dry the dishes. Well, I didn't either. I just use it for fun. Because I don't want it to look weird, look worn out or anything. But I just wondered what you do use your tea towels for. I use a fancy tea towel as a serving tray cover for the milk. Okay, now you know that. Will I publish the original or share the ebook? The story sounds interesting. No, I will not. It is now in this form, and that it will stay. Interesting note from Craig. He really did like the old one, and it was very dramatic and all that. But I'm writing less dramatic these days and more lighter because I want the world to be a little lighter these days. The world is not lighter, but I like to think it is. So I'm gonna do another giveaway right now. We're just barreling along. We're gonna be over in 10 minutes here. We're gonna be giving away this wonderful Wedgwood plate. Isn't that cool? The little Wedgwood plate. And that's the Tower of London on it. Isn't that cool? This is obviously a souvenir. I don't think you want a whole set of these for you. And if Wedgwood is like this, with this sort of matte finish, I don't think I would want any dishes, any food to be on that. How do you clean that? Anyway, it was fun getting this because way back in 1978, when I went to Europe, I went to England for the first and possibly last time, I bought the same exact size Wedgwood in Stratford upon Avon with with William Shakespeare on there. So when I got this from eBay probably, I thought, "Oh, this is cute. This is, brings us full circle." So it's a nice little thing. So right now, run, do not walk to jerrywesterson@gmail.com. There it is. Say Wedgwood plate on your subject line. I want to win this. I deserve to win this. I've been a good person. Give it to me. And you'll see how far that goes. Just kidding. Uh, I had this nice hand me down iPad from my son to use for my notes. And I charged it, and a week went by, a week before this event, and the battery is completely dead. So I'm using my phone. So thank you, Apple. You won't be. We'll be getting like a Samsung or something because it's fancy. It's nice to have that as just for notes and stuff like this. Because I don't need a pad. I got a laptop. That's what I'm talking to you from now. I am talking to you from my laptop. So let's talk about the crown jewels, stealing the crown jewels, because in my book, it's not the first time that ever happened. And it happened in 1303. And that's why my book is set in 1308, so that we can refer back to that very thing that had happened. And in the book, you will see the name Richard of Pudlicott, which sounds like, I don't know, a badger in a vest. Pudlicott. But is Richard of Pudlicott or Richard Pudlicott. It's a great name. I would sure like to use it sometime. He was a wool merchant who was down on his luck and blamed the king for it and became the infamous burglar of King Edward I's wardrobe treasury, which was what the crown jewels were called, at Westminster Abbey in 1303. And that's where the crown jewels used to be kept. Westminster Abbey. It seemed like a good idea, right? Because you got all these monks. They're living there. They got nothing else to do. They should be guarding the crown jewels. So why not? So Richard, along with some high-ranked accomplices, including the monks of Westminster Abbey and their very lax security, stole a large portion of the king's treasury of gems, gold, and coins, other jewelry, estimated at over £100,000 of that money in those days, or about equal to a year's tax revenue for the Kingdom of England for that time. That was a bundle. So today would be millions upon millions of bucks. But old Pudlicott there, he was pretty sloppy about it. When these objects began flooding pawn shops, houses of prostitution, hey baby, want to trade a crown for, even fishing nets in the Thames and in graveyards, the king and his ministers who were away at war in Scotland were finally alerted. Now, it seems remarkable that people would be so sloppy with stuff like this. It's not like it would have been somebody would have taken it as fake. It's not going to be fake. Nobody had fake stuff then. You're not going to use glass. Glass is expensive. So it's going to be the real deal. So they're just leaving it in place. They're leaving graveyards. I can understand that because nobody went to graveyards. You're not going to go there and leave flowers for your loved ones. You're scary going to a graveyard, so you wouldn't. So it's kind of a good place to hide it. But out of in the Thames, people they just dump stuff in the Thames. I mean, maybe they thought a guard was coming. Dump it and hope it. Houses of prostitution. Yeah, all right, they're drunk. they're gonna exchange some gems for services. So yeah, I can see that. So yeah, sloppy. That's pretty sloppy. So many dozens of people were rounded up and jailed. I mean, and after a while, well, I'll talk about that in a sec. So a lot of these people were rounded up, jailed, and eventually brought to one of the biggest trials of the High Middle Ages. So a trial of the century. Ooh. So you could see scribes, drawing pictures of people. Um, no, it's this trial, which probably lasted all of 10 minutes to an hour, as trials in that period were wont to do, because it was already figured out before they came to trial. That's how that was. The sheriff charged the people in the area to investigate it. That's how that was investigated. You didn't have Crispin to kick around, so you had to do it yourself. So the trial lasted 15 minutes. Who knows? Ultimately, most of the loot was recovered, and a dozen or so were hanged, including dumb old Richard there in 1305. But most actually escaped the executioner. I guess Richard gave a false confession that he was the only one involved, saving the monks, his inside accomplices, from being condemned, which seems pretty nice, I guess. Might as well. It's your last act. You're not getting out of it. Might as well do it a nice thing for somebody. But it was all recovered because pawn these pawnbrokers and goldsmiths and people that they took this loot to knew what the heck it was. They knew what it was. They go, no, we're not leaving this here with me. I'm going to call the authorities, and they did, and that's how people got caught. So I mean, that in itself is a great story. I don't know if anybody wrote a book about that, but they're free to. I've already written mine. So so after the hanging, Richard's body was flayed, and legend has it um, that it was hung on the door, nailed to the Westminster Abbey door as a warning to other would-be criminals. But a study done in 2005 proved that it wasn't human skin; it was really animal skin. Fragments were found under the last remaining strap for the door. So I guess the door used to be covered in leather. If you're going to have a big fancy door that lasts for centuries, you might as well cover it in leather, right? So Westminster Abbey proved to be a very undesirable location to protect the crown jewels, and they were ever after moved to the Tower of London, except for a brief time during World War II, and no one knows where that was. And they were protected during the war. So that's cool. So questions. Anybody have any questions about that? Because that's pretty cool. Um, you will see on my newsletter for June a recitation of those facts and also a picture drawn of Richard of Pudlicott from the time period, and he's just gathering things. It was a very vague image, but who knows? Maybe that was done at the trial. Court illustrators. No. Okay. Fancy details. Okay, the treasure door is interesting. Double doors. The first can only be open a bit, so no one could drag out the chests. And a couple of photos in your camera, 1986. Yes. When you go to the Tower of London, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, just be aware as a tourist that everything that you want to see is a different ticket price. So if you think, oh, well, getting into the Tower of London, I could see everything. No, 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 no. Seeing the crown jewels is one. Seeing the dungeons is another. Seeing this is another one. Seeing this is another. Just be aware. They need money there. Okay. So go and spend the money. I wouldn't mind. I didn't get to see the crown jewels when I went because we couldn't afford to do all of that. We're just students at the time. I was 18. I think it's time to go back. I would love to. Don't think it's going to be possible, but you know, if anybody has a really big suitcase, I will slip in there. Let's see. So, oh, we don't have any questions. No questions about that yet. Okay, that's fine. No questions. Let's see. So let's talk about the Tower of London. First, let's look at a map of London. I happen to have this one handy because this is the map of London for Sherlock Holmes's day because I'm writing that pastiche. So here it is. There's London. Let's see if I can just stand up here. Again, I've got it right set up. Yes, I do. I'm going to fold this part back because we don't need that northern part right now. There we are. And if we keep on looking here, I'll find the Thames goes. And I need to find that particular, here we go. There it is. All right, you see this area right here? That's the original size of London. Because this, in this time period, it encompasses Westminster as well as London, this little bit of London. And there, right here, there's the tower, right there. Now let's look at some other maps. This is Crispin's London. Remember that little part I just showed you on the bigger map? Well, this is it. 1 square mile of London. And that's also Oswald's London. So this used to be the Roman wall that used to be there, and that was there at the time. And one bridge, London Bridge, that's it. All those other bridges you saw along the Thames, those none of those were there. And there it is, the tower, right over there. A very unimpressive castle, really, because it's the castle of the capital. Now here's the map that's in the book, because I do like having maps in books when I can. So this is a map in the book, and this is an older image. It's not to that time period. This is not 1300s map. This is a later map, but there's a lot of stuff that was going on. But the wharf was built. That was kind of an important thing that they built. That wasn't original to William the Conqueror's plans because he's the one that built it. We'll talk about that in a second. The Thames, here's the Thames going by, and later these curtain walls were added because look at this. That's it. That's the Tower of London. It's the White Tower. This is the tower that William the Conqueror built and William Rufus's son finished. It's not impressive by itself. I mean, if you think of all the castles that they have in England and Scotland and Wales, this is really boring. But we're going to talk about all those things. So this is where the Lion Tower is, and there used to be part of the menagerie that was there, and there were lions and tigers and bears and giraffes and zebras and weird stuff. Those poor animals, they didn't know how to care for them. I'm sure they didn't survive very long. People would, different dignitaries would bring different animals for the king, and here, look at this. It's a giraffe. Who'd have thought? And they go, that's great. Thank you. I'm going to put that in the menagerie and somebody will take care of it. Who knows how long it lasted? I wonder if they had giraffe that night for dinner. But you never know. So this, at that point, was called Watergate. That is the gate. And right there on the Thames, that's now called Traitors Gate because later the tower just became this prison. and that's where the traders were brought, like Elizabeth the First. She was brought through there. And these were records towers, and where they kept the records for England, London, all the main records of things. And then there's a lantern tower over here where a lantern was lit the whole time. And then um, there's all these other little things. There's a lot of stuff inside that was built, changed around. You had to have military quarters in there later, and then here is the chapel, Saint Peter ad Vincula Chapel. That's where Anne Boleyn is buried, by the way. And then, of course, it's surrounded by a moat. So good stuff there in the tower. Let's talk about the history of it, and we'll see all the things of the tower. So there's a tower. So Christmas Day, 1066. William, Duke of Normandy, also known as William the Bastard, the Duke, was crowned King of England in Westminster Abbey 2 months after defeating the Saxon King Harold in the Battle of Hastings. Right in the eye, Harold. At once, he ordered a fortification to be built in London in the southeast corner along the Thames. The Normans made a ditch and a bank surmounted by a palisade. They knew how to do this. They did this a lot before beginning building the stone fortification. If we look at this map again, why is it over here? Way over here off to the side? Because that's where the ocean, that's where people in boats could come. So they wanted it close to that action before you got to the city. They wanted to get you before that happened. So it was built there. Not the prettiest castle, like I said. It's pretty dull as castles go, but that's the White Tower. Castle-like structure in the center was essentially the Tower of London. The footprint of it is 118 by 107 feet. That's a footprint. That's it. You have houses with a bigger footprint than that. I'm sure you do. But it does have several stories. It's 12,626 square feet. Now versus Westminster Abbey, which is 32,000 square feet. So the Abbey is bigger than the castle. It was completed in 1078 and was meant as a residence for royalty and visiting dignitaries. And that's fine. I mean, a lot of these castles are exactly for that. Some of them are made to encompass the town within the curtain walls. And then the town gets bigger and a lot of it is outside the walls. And, that's not good for you. But the point of it is to protect the town and the people in it. Well, the goods in it. So it's not known if William ever lived in it. They don't know because it wasn't finished. By the time he died, his son had to finish it. The tower was also used as a prison from, now get this, from 1100 to 1952. They don't do anything halfway in England. No, they do not. The last state prisoner to be held in the tower, and rightly so, was Rudolf Hess, the deputy leader of the Nazi Party in May of 1941. There's a public execution you would have liked to have seen. But the last prisoners being held in the tower were the Cray twins, who had failed to report for military service in 1952. They went on to commit more of their racketeering activity that included murder and robbery until arrested in 1968 and imprisoned elsewhere in 1969 for the rest of their lives. So it was completed by William's son, William Rufus, and remained unchanged for a century because it was just perfect. No, though, then between 1190 and 1285, the White Tower was encircled by two towered curtain walls and a moat. So it didn't have a moat originally. They added that. The only other important improvement was the building of the wharf, which continued to about Crispin's day. Throughout the years, more interior buildings were added to and taken down. Over the years, the tower served as an armory, a treasury, a menagerie, and the home of the Royal Mint, a public records office, and the home of the crown jewels of England. So there you are. So how can we, do we have any other questions? Yes. So yeah, the Chapel of St. Peter at Vincula is separate, where Anne Boleyn is buried. Not this book, but definitely the location. Yes, it's obviously she wasn't alive then. This is 1308. So, but it was there at the time. Let's see. Thank you for writing. Thank you for saying that I write fascinating books, Margaret. It's tiny compared to modern London. Yeah, it's all original London was tiny compared to modern London. This is it. These walls, nothing of these walls survive. There's only like one little piece of wall somewhere, but none of those are there anymore. And Newgate, the gates, those aren't there. They're gone. The stone is taken for other kinds of building, and all of this was farmland and other people's land that eventually got built over and used for other things, for other buildings, and it just kept crawling out there until it sort of encompassed Westminster, which was its own city. Where Westminster Abbey is, Westminster Palace. What a coincidence to name it after Westminster, because it was there. So that was an important thing that they took to take over. But in this 1 square mile were 50,000 people. So that's a lot of people crammed in there. No wonder there was crime running rampant. People stealing the crown jewels and all. So, okay. You're forgiven, Teresa. She says because my copy of Oswald downloaded and I got so sucked in that I lost track of the time and she came late to the launch. Well, that's all right. That's okay. That's a good reason. I didn't realize it was a prison that late. Yeah. 1952. That's, of course, in France, and they had execution by guillotine until 1975, wasn't it? So it's kind of weird. It's kind of icky. Enjoying the background. Yes, you're welcome. There's a lot of things to know. You had to research all of these things. There you will see some traps in this book, and they're modeled after some real traps that they actually had at Westminster Abbey when they had the crown jewels there. So you can make this stuff up, but you don't have to make up all of it because it's true. That's why history is so interesting. So, anybody have any questions about some of this stuff, some of this history and the people in it and all that good stuff? This was King Edward the First. Was already gone, so now it's Edward II, who is his son, who is king at this in 1308. And he's a rather controversial character in history. Many believe that he's gay, and he probably was. He had some very, very close favorites that really made the nobles mad, very angry, because he raised them to positions that they shouldn't have had, gave them titles and such that they weren't entitled to, and two were very important to Edward II, and they were both executed by the state, and by usurpers. So we're probably going to have a nice short launch here. Was the abbey so much larger because of the power of the church? Well, yes. It's just larger because it's a big cathedral and it has monks living there and a lot of them. So you needed a place for the monks to live. You needed little gardens and you had different various houses for the things to happen that they did for their living. You know, you had to be self-sufficient in these places. So there was land outside of the abbey, but and because it was such an important church to the capital city, the capital, the king. So in fact, it's a peculiar. It's not quite a cathedral, and it's not quite something else. Sort of more of the jurisdiction under the monarch. So it's called peculiar, um, and it still is, even though it's not a Catholic church anymore. It's a Church of England church, but it still has a lot of famous people buried in it, and a lot of monarchs and their wives and people like that. Shakespeare is not buried in Westminster Abbey. He just has a little monument in Poets' Corner there, but there are some who are. So it had a lot of that money, but it's the previous king, Edward the Confessor, built Westminster Abbey. So it was all ready to go when William crossed the channel and took over and became king. He had a nice place to have his coronation. Wasn't that handy? So he did. So we will probably wrap this up then because I don't have voice enough to do a reading. I know my voice isn't up to reading anymore because I can barely get through this. So I just want to show you the last giveaway, which is this giant mug. This is Tower of London inside. The handle is an axe. Ah, somebody is funny. But this is a really cool, it's a giant mug. Look how big it is. It's big as my head. So it's a pretty big mug, and you could put pencils in it or whatever because it's really cool. And it's textured. It's got the stone on it and the little windows that they have at the tower. So this is the giveaway. Um, and it's historic royal places. It's not made in England. Sorry, it's made in Thailand. But there it is. So you know what to do. You go to jerrywesterson@gmail.com and say you'd like to win that. And I will do my random number generator. And you will. You will win it. Somebody will. I won't. But I like the back too. I like the back. I take a lot. I design the back, so I don't do the covers. I do somebody else does that, but I do all the back. So I thought this was a lot of fun with all the crowns and the money and all that kind of stuff. So it's a nice looking book, I think. I try to make a nice looking book for you. So if there aren't any other questions, I would. I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna go back to the beginning and see if there were any things I missed. I don't think so. It's telling me that 18 people are here. Hello, all you 18 people. I hope some of you people are. If you're not, doesn't matter if you say something, but go and try to win something. For heaven's sakes, all you do is try. Somebody's gonna win it. Might as well be you. Anything else? And I'm this time, thankfully, I figured out how to go live. I think it was the last one I did that was live that I just, for some reason, I completely crapped out and I forgot how to do it. So I remember this time. Yay! So if you came late, you can watch this after it's over because it'll now be a permanent thing on my YouTube channel. And I hope you subscribe. I hope to do some more soon. I don't know why I haven't done some lately. I guess I gotta think about that. Oh, I know. I was writing this book about Sherlock Holmes. So And now it's done, and it's off to a couple of people to blurb it, a couple authors. So then I can give that to my agent, and he can put that in his package and send it out to some publishers and see if I can't drive myself insane and have 2 books to write a year. Okay, I'm up for it. There's a couple of comments I missed above, or did Tina miss them? Yeah, you could put a lot of tea in that. Yeah, you can put your whole teapot's worth in that. But then you have to microwave it, and microwave tea is just not as good, is it? You can microwave coffee, but you really can't microwave tea. So that's a toughie. We will, for the we will always have these online launches because, hey, I was ahead of the curve. I was doing online launches before the pandemic for people who live in different towns, different countries, different whatever. They couldn't get to a launch. So I will always do this, but for for Will Summers, for the Will Summers book, I will be in front of you, live and in person. God help you, but I will. And so we will do that too. And I hope to do that. I'm going to at least go to obviously Southern California, Northern California, Oregon, and Washington State. I will be in those places. I'm running out of states where I want to spend my money. So be on alert, people. Vote out certain people who are doing terrible laws. Okay, so I think we're done. I mean, those are my books. So when I'm at events, those are what I'm going to be selling. So buy them, please. Please buy them. Please buy them online. Please review. Oh my goodness. Some of my favorite books, the werewolf books, Moonrisers and Baying for Blood. They were so fun to write. I want to write more, but it's not economically feasible when not enough people are writing them or reading them, and they're not reviewing them. So buy books, read them, review them, tell your friends, get 10,000 of your closest friends to buy the books and review them, and that helps an author out a lot. So yeah, no, don't microwave tea. So thank you very much for coming today. I hope you enjoyed the book. Uh, do review and talk it up to your friends. That's all I can ask. That's all I can ask repeatedly because I will ask it repeatedly. Yes, it was nice seeing you, all of you here. Thank you, those who commented. Thank you, those who came. Thank you, those who bought books ahead of time. Those who bought books to get them signed, you'll also get a fabulous bookmark, and probably a little postcard that went with it, the sales material. And I guess we'll be signing off. So thank you all for coming and read, read, read. Bye now.